You may associate country music with great breakup songs, and it's easy to see why. There's just something about steel guitar and tender acoustic that screams heartbreak. But you can't have heartbreak without first love, and it's important to remember the other side of that coin. Because country music has produced some of the finest love songs of all time too. Songs that, when you hear them, you can't help but think of that special someone. So today, we are digging into the top love songs in the history of country music. Songs that make you want to call your girlfriend, your wife, whoever, and just tell them you've been thinking about them. But that's not all. We're also looking into the dark, twisted, and sometimes fascinating stories behind these essential tunes. From shockingly explicit subject matter to cinematic romances. Painful breakups to deadly, mysterious curses. These songs have a lot going on beneath the surface. So you may never be able to hear them the same way again, but trust me, it'll be interesting. Before we begin, please hit that thumbs up icon if you enjoy our video, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Are you ready? Well, grab a beer and head on over to that jukebox, because it's time to find out.
What happened?
Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire. Johnny Cash's most heartbreaking music was inspired by his various loves throughout his life. From his tragic first marriage to his high school sweetheart to his legendary passion for his lifelong muse, June Carter Cash. But I don't think any of his songs are more poignant than the unrelenting Ring of Fire.
Into a burning ring of fire.
A passionate plea with accompanying mariachi horns that seem to conjure the very flames from the lyrics. But there is a fascinating debate over the origin of the song. Here's the traditional story behind the track. June Carter was reading a book of poetry when she was struck by the phrase, "Love is like a burning ring of fire." It reminded her of her own romance with Johnny, a passionate blaze made all the more painful by the difficult circumstances surrounding it. So she wrote Ring of Fire and gave it to her sister Anita Cash, who put it on her 1963 album. The song gained some buzz, but refused to fully take off. Reportedly, when Johnny heard it, he claimed that the stripped-down arrangement of Anita's version was holding the song back, and that if it didn't take off, he would re-record it, with mariachi horns he'd heard in a dream. The rest, of course, is history. But Johnny's first wife, Vivian Cash, tells a different story. She claims that when she was out fishing with Johnny one day, he told her he had written that song, but was going to give it to June because she needed the money, and because he felt sorry for her. Furthermore, she claimed that the song wasn't about love at all, that he had written it while under the influence of drugs and alcohol about, quote, a certain female body part. It's tough to say who is telling the truth here. Each party has their own motivation for their story. June's tale supports her own reputation as a great songwriter, while Vivian could be motivated to slander the woman who, by most accounts, broke up her marriage. But I don't necessarily think either of these accounts lessen the power of the song. In fact, I think it's a great metaphor for the beauty of Johnny's music. Stuck between pleasure and pain, fact and fiction. And that's where true beauty emerges. Alan Jackson, Remember When. Remember When is the kind of song that almost seems too good to be true.
And then you cried, remember when.
It's about a love that begins at a very young age, is faced with countless troubles, but regains its footing and remains strong for the following decades. While it makes for a great song, I almost thought that wasn't quite realistic. But as it turns out, there is a shocking truth behind this song. Alan Jackson was just a poor kid growing up in rural Georgia when a beautiful girl named Denise started working at the local Dairy Queen. Alan wasn't too good at talking to girls, so he impressed her the only way he could think of. When she mentioned she was a fan of motorcycles, Alan spent months saving up to buy one. Well, that plan worked, and the two were soon an item. They built a life together, with Denise supporting Alan in his music career. But as Alan got bigger and bigger, he lost sight of the values that had sustained him since he was a child. Alan Jackson cheated on Denise, and she almost left him for good. Jackson begged her to give him just one more chance, and lucky for him, she did. He learned from his mistakes, and their relationship grew back even stronger than it was. Alan Jackson wrote Remember When about this experience, looking back at a long and challenging romance, all the while knowing it was worth it in the end. Like any great country song, it's not just the music that makes a song great, it is the important truth within, that even the most painful of heartbreaks can develop into fond memories with a lot of trust and patience. And that's what makes Remember When one of the greatest country love songs of all time.
And we'll remember when.
Dolly Parton, I Will Always Love You. Yes, before there was Whitney, there was Dolly.
And lend him a hand.
Believe it or not, there are people who don't know that this mega popular hit was a Dolly Parton original. But even if you're a fan of the original country classic, there are a few secrets about this track that most people don't know. Before Dolly won America's heart as a solo performer, she was known for her duets with her collaborator Porter Wagoner. For 7 years, the two worked very closely, recording albums and starring on TV together. But eventually, Dolly had to go out on her own to truly realize her dreams. She had to leave Porter in the dust to truly achieve greatness. So it was for Porter and not a lover whom she wrote the song for. I Will Always Love You. While this might sound strange, it's very fitting that she would end her working relationship with a man with whom she had created so many love songs with. While their paths diverged, Dolly becoming a superstar and Porter fading into the background a bit. The two forever remained close, and Dolly was there at Porter's funeral alongside his family. One crazy fact about the song was that it was written on the same day that Dolly wrote Jolene. Honestly, just make that day a national holiday already. But no matter when it was written, one thing is for sure. I Will Always Love You is one of the greatest songs ever written, especially the original version.
Will always love you.
Patsy Cline, Crazy. There are some songs that you can't imagine not being around. It's difficult to imagine a wedding without Here Comes the Bride, or a birthday without the thong song. I mean, Happy Birthday. And it's just as difficult to picture a jukebox without Crazy by Patsy. But while this classic track is always a comfort to hear in a dimly lit barroom, there's actually a dark history behind it. In fact, some might say the track is haunted. First, do you know who really wrote Crazy? Well, it wasn't Patsy Cline, it was a nobody named Willie Nelson. Well, at the time, he kinda was. Willie was struggling just to make a living, and he was hardly what you would call happy. He was poor, his marriage was failing, and his image just wasn't what people wanted to see in a musician. But he did have talent and thirst for songwriting. So he got his foot in the door the only way he knew how, by writing songs for other artists. And that's where Patsy Cline comes in. Willie originally wrote the song with a male vocalist in mind, but his friend Hank Cochran knew immediately that Patsy Cline would knock it out of the park. Fun fact, the song was originally called Stupid, but Willie was not stupid, so he showed it to the young starlet. And Patsy refused. She had heard a demo from Willie before and found it depressing, and she did not want to make sad music. To her, country music was about happy love songs. But Hank Cochran didn't take no for an answer, and he drove Willie to Patsy's house with the demo in hand, practically forcing her to listen to it. And once she did, she reluctantly agreed. And that's actually when things got kinda weird. Almost immediately, Patsy Cline was in a horrible car wreck. She had to wait a few weeks to recover enough to record Crazy. Well, the song was a smash hit, of course. Audiences loved the morose take on a classic formula. But as she continued to ascend to stardom, Patsy began to feel strange. She began to experience premonitions of her own death. These premonitions proved to be timely because within a year, Patsy Cline would be in a fatal plane wreck. Was it really the song that changed the course of her life? Of course, it's hard to say, and probably not. But one thing's for certain. The haunting melody of Crazy is one of the deepest country love songs of all time. These are some of the best country love songs of all time. So sure, I was very surprised to see how many of them involved heartbreak. I guess that's just the thing with country music. You can't have love without heartbreak, and you can't have heartbreak without love. As a wise man once said, every rose has its thorn, but then every thorn has its rose. Alright, enough of me, now I want to hear from you all. Which love song from this list is your favorite? What country love song did I forget? Please get in the comments and tell me your thoughts. And before you head out of here, click that thumbs up icon if you don't mind. Subscribe to our channel and come back often so we can keep telling you